Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Organic's first ever, and maybe only ever, Digital for Good podcast. My name's James, and I'll be talking today with our guest, Kevin Stables. Say hello, Kevin.
Hi James, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. You?
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for Friday.
So, thanks for volunteering to be the first victim, is probably the best way to describe it, for my little experiment. Is probably how I would describe it. Our first podcast. I'm going to be calling it it's the Digital for Good podcast, right? So it lines up with our branding, and I'm going to be calling it the Good Thing About. And I think every week the idea is that we try and find the good thing about something in marketing or digital or technology or society and tech that's going on the internet, and kind of have a bit of a discussion about it. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good idea. And I found something good about Brexit.
Brexit. Now,
Yeah.
I think of all the things, Brexit. Are you serious? So, I think there's one thing I'd say, Kev, that we can all agree on in this country, whether you're in or you're out when it comes to Brexit, is that there's not much good about Brexit and the way it's being treated and the way it's handled and how we're viewed around the world at all at the moment. So, I'm kind of intrigued to find out what it is that you think you found that's good about Brexit.
Absolutely right, James. That's true. We're all a bit tired of everything and it keeps dragging on. However, I had a little look around and I found some very interesting marketing campaigns and ads that have been done, some recently and some a little while ago. And it just shows that there's a lot of creativity out there and a lot of people out there desperately trying to reach customers by being clever, innovative, and riding off the back of the kind of Brexit frustration. And we've got a few things to talk through as we go this afternoon.
So
Maybe,
maybe it's a case that out of some of this chaos, there's opportunities for creativity, right?
Absolutely right. And look for an opportunity is my advice. You're out there, want to come up with some ads or some ideas. There's always an opportunity in the middle of chaos and conflict and tension that we're all experiencing at the moment. Definitely. And
So
there's a few.
should we take a look?
Yeah, absolutely right.
Great, cool.
So I found this headline that the New York Times published this week, and I think it just sums it up really of how the world views us. The United Kingdom has gone mad. The problem with holding out for a perfect Brexit plan is that you can't fix stupid, and I think that sums up really how we're perceived around the world, but also by people here too in the UK, and advertising. Which I'm going to go through now, it starts to give a sense of that really. And the next thing that we have also just cements that, James, if you carry on. And if you can't take a joke, the New York Times says you shouldn't have come to London right now because there's political farce everywhere. In truth, though, it's not very funny. It's actually tragic. What we're seeing is a country that's determined to commit economic suicide that can't even agree on how to kill itself. It's an epic failure of political leadership. So
I don't think anyone disagrees about that, do they? Right? I mean, the politicians and people running this process, good or for bad, they've had 2 years, and I don't know I've still no idea what's going to happen.
no,
Neither do they. That's the truth.
no one does, and that's the challenge we all face, I think, and how we keep moving, in business and in our jobs. How do we keep going, and how do we keep trying to find ways to keep looking forward? And it's very difficult at the minute because
And
there's so much uncertainty.
I guess some brands have been able to, however, kind of play on that and take a risk. They keep talking about the risk to business, the impact on the economy that could be there, big crash potentially happening depending on who you ask. And some businesses have actually thought, well, actually, can we turn this to our advantage, right?
Yeah, they have. I mean, one of the things I found, if you go through, James, the next thing is actually starting with the Guardian published this image by Anish Kapoor this week. He commissioned it. It's called A Brexit, We All Fall Down. And really what it does, I think it shows from an artist's point of view, what what's happening to the country. There's a massive divide, splitting the country in two almost. And actually, what the paper says is, this exposes a bottomless void at the heart of Britain. You could topple in there and never stop falling. In fact, that's exactly what we've done. The solid ground still seems to be nowhere in sight. And, I think that sums up, the mood of people. But there are brands, if you go through to the next picture, James, who are reflecting that viewpoint. And, this ad that came this week, for Unilever, for Marmite, in fact, done by their in-house team at U Studio, really capitalised on that notion of the divisions in the country. They say dividing the nation since 1902, and it's true. Love it or hate it, Marmite has been doing exactly that.
It's interesting, isn't it, when a brand has depending on its kind of proposition and its creative territory that it owns, how it can, find something like Brexit and say, well, actually, our brand kind of stands for something that the country's going through at the moment. You either love it or hate it.
Exactly right. They found an opportunity. They found something to, I suppose, engage in conversation about, but still, being true to, their product and their brand and how they communicate and how they have done for some time. I think it would be, slightly, an issue if a totally unrelated brand had tried to do it. So I don't know, tomato sauce or something that has no real sense of love or hate or divisions. You would have gone, well, why are they trying to capitalise on this Brexit?
Well, you never know. 57 varieties of Brexit might
well, maybe 57 before too long if it keeps going backwards and forwards and around the commons. But for now, it's a very kind of binary kind of decision. It's kind of yes or no, in or out, hard or soft. And I think that's what they've done well there with that ad. It's very, very instant message. You can't avoid it. You can't miss it. And it's a very clear takeout from it. And I think it's done a great job.
Yeah, it's clean. It's simple. Copywriting it gets there, but maybe could be a little bit better in my opinion. But I don't know.
Yeah, it goes. And I mentioned it earlier on. It's done by an in-house team. It goes to show that in-housing is working for companies. They're taking some of their kind of advertising and marketing functions, into their head offices and embedding teams. And a lot of people have said it may not necessarily be the right answer because you stifle creativity or you don't have the kind of personalities or kind of skill sets that you need to come up with great ads. But this, I think, proves that you can do that in-house and have talent and produce great work. And I think
absolutely. Yeah, and I totally agree. And this idea that you have to, that you can't build an in-house team and deliver good work, it's a myth ultimately. Yes, you need support and you need constant sources of innovation, but this is a case in point, picking up on something highly controversial, highly relevant, is enraptured the nation, if not the world, and putting a branded spin on it. I think it works really well.
Exactly right. And I think, as the whole in-house thing kind of grows and develops and matures, I think we're going to see a lot more great work coming out and, really giving the traditional advertising agencies a run for their money.
Cool.
So on to the next one.
Yes.
Is
I've seen these around.
Yeah, led by donkeys. I mean, I think, everybody's seen these now. I mean, I think they're really clever little tactical pieces. As far as I understand it, done by kind of 4 relatively anonymous guys, Richard, Adam and Chris. I don't know who the 4th one is, guerrilla activists. And I think they just hit upon this notion of going back and looking at what people had said previously about Brexit and reminding them, I suppose, of their hypocrisy. And using the good old humble billboard. The billboard has come into its own recently with these kind of executions, and that they're cheap, they're quick, and lots of people see them. And again, what this has done, is it's built into it, kind of talkability, and that's the for me, that's one of the key things that advertising needs to do now is have this extra level of some aspect of just going beyond the message or going beyond the ad. It's actually getting people talking about it, and they've had tons of coverage. And I suspect all they've really spent is some billboard sites dotted around the country at pretty low cost. Now, clearly, this is a politically motivated thing, and it's getting out there, and people are seeing it, and people are starting to realise, what has been said by people in the past, and it goes to show that this whole business is very murky indeed.
I've got to say I love this one, Kev, for a number of reasons. I think for a start, like you say, the use of the old school 48 sheets.
Yeah.
And what I like most about this is clearly, it's a campaign by activists. Yep. So they may not have the deepest pockets. So whilst they could arguably be doing, some of the incredible stuff, for example, Ocean Outdoor are doing with interactive screens and video and things like that. But these guys are going straight back to the old poster-based 48 sheets, arguably not in the most expensive of locations by looking at the picture. But taking a digital spin on it and it says so much about how digital is affecting the analog world, right? So from, the fact that this is things people have said in the past that would have been forgotten and are stored there online, to go back and visit. And then secondly, the power of this kind of relatively cheap outdoor space, I imagine, looking at the picture, can be turned into a photograph and shared 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times online, massively increasing the value. And leaving the car there with no wheels on, I think is a good touch as well, whether that was by accident or
not. That's why I chose that particular image, just because it just really, brings home this whole notion that, the wheels have fallen off basically. And, it's, and it just shows how much of a shambles the whole thing is. Without repeating that, I think looking at Brexit, as we talked about, this creative work, is just moving it away from what we know of it, and is taking it into something that's just more interesting, more fun, more entertaining for us, and to have a good conversation about.
What I like about both this tactic and the previous tactic is that, you can use them and apply them to almost any campaign, right? So one is, there's a prescient issue in the news, the Marmite one, and it aligns with our kind of binary theme. This one is, reflecting back on how something used to be, or an older perspective, and contrasting it with the reality now, right? Which are both simple tactics that you can use in marketing to engage your audience.
Exactly right. And I think there's another one of those that we've got. And again, it was just to show a simple poster site. If you want to go on to the next one, simple poster site. Again, this one, 96 sheet. Don't know where it is. Doesn't really matter where it is, and that's the point. This can be anywhere. And whilst it doesn't look particularly great in the photograph, that's not the point. It's the words on the poster site that are important. That's the key to this, and the little hashtag down the bottom again just closes the loop for me, because it just brings us back to this notion of idiots, as alludes back to the First World War, lions led by donkeys, and it just shows us that the hypocrisy and the idiocy that we've had to endure over the past couple of years, and will continue to do so probably for a couple more.
When you say a couple of years, I mean, like you said, that was a line that came out of First World War critique. So a couple of 100 years, if not a couple of 1,000 years. So
absolutely right. But I think using this medium, really brings home the power of those words. I think more than digital probably would do.
I'd love to know who these guys were, because I mean, it has that beautiful balance of simplicity, right? But with a huge rich of creative and strategic thinking behind it. So whether or not they're marketers, they certainly understand the medium and the media that they're dealing with, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think what they've cleverly done is they've just seen an opportunity. As with Marmite, they've seen an opportunity to do something really simple. And for me, that's the beauty of great advertising. It's something that's really, really obvious. And it's the kind of thing you look at it and go, I wish I'd done that.
I think...
But you didn't, but someone beat you to it. And that's why it's so good, because it's so obvious, so easy, but not everyone can do it.
Yeah, and I think there's a bit of a kind of lesson in there as well, right? Because certainly my experience both in agency and with clients, is, you know, people are kind of scared of the obvious stuff, the simple stuff. You know, they kind of think that it has to be complicated or difficult to get to, or you know, really smart and or over engineered to kind of justify the effort, when actually the stuff that really, in my opinion, that captures the imagination and communicates is the simple stuff that you can just get.
Exactly. I mean, if you go back to kind of marketing principles or advertising principles, you know, being distinctive is one of those things, you know, and being easy to understand and being straightforward, you know, is another one of those things that you need to do. I mean, you have to cut through, but also people have to understand and connect with what we're talking about. And if they don't do that, then you've lost them. And, you know, 90% of advertising or marketing communications just is simply lost because people don't see it, they don't connect with it, they don't understand it, and it's wasted money fundamentally. But this kind of stuff that, you know, we're looking at is probably done on a shoestring, and yet it's been hugely successful. And I think marketers, advertisers, and brands could learn a lot from this kind of approach.
Yeah, I agree. Both in terms of the strategic and tactical element of it, and also in terms of the execution, right? You know, it's
right. Yeah. I suspect the guys that have done it wouldn't have spent hours and hours in workshops and big brainstorm meetings to do it. They would have sat down and go, okay, what are we going to do? Okay, yeah, remember that quote by blah? Let's stick it on a billboard. I suspect it's literally as simple as that. You know, half an hour's work and bang. You know, and that's what we can do. We can be like that. You know, if we want to be in this business, we can sit down and come up with things and get them out quickly if we want to. And I think
we're not very good at it though, as an industry, though.
Well, that's true. I think because we get worried about, or what would such and such say or do, or you know, is it right, or we need to think about that for a while. I think sometimes you just have to get out there and do it because you've lost your chance. Yeah. Often, if you procrastinate too long, you'll lose your opportunity. And you know, sometimes things have to be really timely and really to coincide with a mood or an event or something that is important at that moment. If you sit around too long, you've lost it.
Yeah, I agree, and I also think, like I say, that you know, if you're scared, if it's obvious and it's staring you in the face and it's simple, don't be scared of that. You know, there's a reason why it's obvious and it's staring you in the face and it's simple. It's because it's true and it's compelling, probably, and people are going to be able to understand and identify it. So the number of times people say, "Yeah, we can't do that. That's too obvious." You know.
Oh, you know, the thing is though, a lot of advertising is built on, you know, an insight or a simple human truth, and that's the stuff that works because people recognize it and understand it and get it.
Yeah.
You know, and those things are the hardest things to get right in this job of getting down to a simple truth or an insight or something that can drive then your advertising and communications. And yeah, this does it quite nicely, probably without even realizing what it's done. To be honest, they've gone right. Okay, you know, there is a lot of hypocrisy in this. We need to tell people so they understand, you know, what they're dealing with, and they have done over the past couple of years. And I think, you know, with the best will in the world, you know, advertising agencies and marketers, you know, aren't that single-minded, and you know, will spend hours going around the houses to come up with something that doesn't even go anywhere near achieving what this has done in the short space of time it's been around.
And there's a couple of other things that play into that. I think fear is something, like you say. Can we afford to be that controversial or that funny or to have that strong an opinion, even though it's often, you know, and then you decisions by committee sometimes can be a bit of an issue, that things get watered down. And like I say, the perception that value for money means complexity and effort, when actually, you know, I think our job is about getting down to that singular thought and truth and something that people can emote with and identify with.
Yeah, exactly right. Totally. You know, be brave, be bold, be timely, be quick. You know, that's easy enough, isn't it?
Yeah.
To do.
Well, you think so. Good luck.
Yeah, absolutely right. Anyway, let's
move on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
this is interesting actually. I having a look around and saw this, and good old Tim Martin is very pro leave, and I think they printed out these beer mats, obviously sticking pubs for their customers to have a look at, and very much his point of view. And it looks to me, if you boil it down, no deal means cheaper beer, fundamentally, you could argue, which will obviously benefit him because hopefully more customers will come into his pubs.
Well, we all benefit from cheaper beer as long as we like beer, don't we, Kev? I mean, I think if you're going to persuade people in the UK, to back a Brexit, maybe cheaper beer is a good idea.
Is it? I could remind you of the gin craze of the 1700s.
Oh, okay. Come on. Stick to the marketing. Let's stick to the marketing.
Anyway, but I'm being slightly facetious. But I read in the paper this morning that Wetherspoons are closing down 16 pubs or selling them off. So clearly, they're having problems in the current situation, whatever that is. And I suppose for them, they probably want an end to the uncertainty as much as anybody else. I think this was just a nice little, get it in front of people, kind of little tactic, get your message across, to what is essentially, a captive audience. You're in a pub, you're having your drink or your lunch, and you see the beer mat, and you're going to have a look at it, aren't you? Because it's there in front of you.
Yeah. I think this is fascinating. And I'll tell you why. So we have a thing, as you know, Kev, at Organic, which is called Dirty Spoons once a month, don't we? Where we all go out as a company. And just have a Wetherspoons meal and a couple of pints, just for a bit of a laugh. And I was amazed. I was in Wetherspoons and I walk in, and there's a big sign on a wall, on a stand there, setting out the argument for Brexit. And I was like, does a pub have the right to do this? In terms of brand, where does it sit within their brand, and all of these kind of things? I don't know. What's your take? First of all, does a pub have a right to a right or a responsibility, or as a commercial organisation, to stick its nose in and kind of become a political activist? I guess the second question is, as a brand, is this good territory for Wetherspoons or not? What do you think?
I mean, I think in terms of being involved in the political process, I think lots of brands do that. You could argue, well, should media outlets be that closely involved in the political process? And clearly they are, because they have an agenda, and they benefit from it in one way or another. Particularly the right wing media, clearly they want certain outcomes, and they will look to promote those. There is no real sense of impartiality in the media these days, and I think brands are kind of the same. If they see some kind of outcome that's going to benefit them, then they're going to try and pursue that. And in terms of these kinds of brands, I think it's more of an economic one for them. In terms of your other question, which I've now forgotten,
as a brand, does Wetherspoons why is this good territory, or is it good territory for the brand in the way that Marmite is, for example?
I think that perhaps going into a pub, as we all do, is a place to have a good discussion about a topic. And Brexit clearly is going to be a hot topic in a lot of pubs for conversation. So you've got an audience there who are going to be engaged with the subject and with you, potentially, if you have a point of view on it. And I think, people who go to pubs and enjoy a drink, are just as likely as anybody else to want to get a solution to this and talk about it, whether you eat Marmite, go to the pub, or drink pink champagne. I still think everybody has an opinion, and it's a good a place as any to discuss it. And I think this is a nice way of getting in front of people to think about it. Clearly, it's a little bit tongue in cheek, I think, because he says, "Dear leaders!" ! Leaders shown correct at the time of going to print. Obviously, anything could have happened, and might still. I think, in fact, the Liberal Democrat leader has obviously since resigned, as far as I remember.
Or certainly shown his intention to. I'm not sure exactly. Mind you, I think Theresa May has also said that she intends to resign as well. So, but who knows? Who knows?
I know. The illusory nature of politics. Who knows who'll be around in a few weeks' time. Anyway, move on to the next.
One thing about Wetherspoons I'd like to share. Fascinating fact for you, Kev.
Yeah.
If you could play along with me on this would be awesome. Kev, do you know why Wetherspoons is called JD Wetherspoons?
James, I do not. I must confess.
The reason that it's called JD Wetherspoons is because that was the name of the founder's, Tim's, teacher when he was at school. And this teacher used to say to him, Tim, young man, you will never amount to anything in your life. And when he started his pub chain up, he put a statue, a bust of J.D. Witherspoon in each one. And so that when he's feeling like a little bit happy about his successes, he can walk up to that now and say, what do you think of me now, Mr. Witherspoon? What do you think of me now? So, fascinating fact.
Like it.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Bit of fun, that one. But
yeah, absolutely right. That's good fun fact. I remember that for my next pub quiz.
No problem. Should we move on?
Let's do another one.
Cool, next one.
Yep.
Oh, yes. HSBC. I saw this on the Underground.
This has been around for a while. This was JWT, TV campaign, a lot of billboards, a lot of press, and they're clearly nailing their colours to the mast on this one. A lot of people, rightly or wrongly, think that HSBC is kind of Remain. I think what I'd say is they're a global brand, and they have a global outlook, and I think they've always had that. Obviously, HSBC originates from Hong Kong, so they are an international organisation, and they've always had this very global outlook, but with a local kind of approach too. And I think they're just reflecting that longer term kind of attitude. And the copy is quite punchy, and I think for those people that kind of support the view, that they will see there are a lot of merit and a lot of truth in this, and a clear insight. They have obviously been criticised by others for this point of view, and they have been ridiculed, I think, on social media. But
wasn't there a version of the ad done where they just changed all the sentences to bad things that banks might do?
Quite possibly. Yeah. I wouldn't comment on that. But clearly, if you stick your head above the parapet, someone's going to shoot at you, and they could have easily just done a nice, safe kind of banking ad. But they've got a point of view, and I think there's nothing wrong with having it, and doing something about a situation you find yourself in. And really, they want to talk to customers and talk to prospective customers, but also to talk to the world and say, look, here we are, and this is what we think.
Interestingly, I read something a while back, I only vaguely remember it, where a spokesperson for HSBC said that this was not a comment on Brexit.
No, exactly. Clearly that's going to be the official line, but you can read into that as much as you want. I think what they've written, in fact, for me, down the bottom right, in a way, is the most telling part of this, which is "Together we thrive."
Yeah.
Of course, you can interpret that in as many ways as you like, and that could be...
And that is part of their brand, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So us as a brand and you as a customer, together we thrive. Or it could be, us, in the UK and Europe, together we thrive. Or us as a bank in a global economy, together we thrive. Take your pick. And clearly, they face criticism because of this notion that it's motivated around Brexit. So that I guess they're going to say, well, actually, no, it isn't, to try and avoid some of the controversy. But clearly, it's a nod towards this, and it came out around the time when things were starting to hot up. So it's no surprise that people have made that connection. I mean, others have said it's just about an international bank just reasserting its position in the world. Or it's saying to people who may not be of British descent in the UK, don't worry, things will get a bit better when this all sorts itself out. So there's lots of hidden messages perhaps in there, or lots of interpretations, and you can do that with any advertising. I think you can interpret it how you want. I think for me, this is about a bank talking about who they are, how they think, and how they can benefit their customers fundamentally.
Yeah, I think banking, this might be a little bit controversial or a bit hard to believe, but I think marketing and banking at the moment is a really fascinating space for a number of reasons. Yeah. First and foremost is, the reputation of banking globally. Secondly is that the legislation that was brought in after that has massively put the limitations on the ability of banks to market their products, because they have to be seen not to be, promising things or, financial regulation. And what you've seen is a lot of brands race for very traditional brand-led storytelling. I'm thinking of horses running along beaches at the moment and this kind of stuff, right? Because they can't really talk about their product, or they think they can't. We've done some work with HSBC around social and channels and how do they engage their 250,000 staff that they have around the world, many of which are very passionate about the brand and the company they work for. And there's an argument that says, and I'm sure that we could debate this long into the night, Kev, but that we need banks. Actually, they play a vital role in society. Some people say, some people disagree. I think it's a very interesting territory at the moment. One for another podcast, maybe.
Just to finish off the point, really, and you're right about how banks kind of communicate now, and horses running along beaches. I think you're right. They're moving away from kind of product stuff, but much more about emotional connections and heritage, and how the bank kind of makes you feel as an kind of guiding your life and your future and your family and all those kinds of things, which are really important to people. And I think because of the regulatory stuff, we're going to see a lot more of this. And I think all that HSBC have done is just, again, find a way of talking about the kind of bigger issues and bigger things that people are going to connect with on a more emotional level.
I think the challenge is, and actually HSBC are better than this, better at this than most banks.
Yeah.
The challenge is this, and that is that, these steel and glass towers, you say ivory towers, but steel and glass towers that have the reflective glass on the outside that they kind of hide within. It used to be that they'd portray this image on the outside, but the reality on the inside was kind of hidden, but and different. Yeah. Well, now with social and digital and all those things, obviously that glass is two-way. It's totally transparent. You can see what people are doing. They post about it. They share their experiences as employees. All of this stuff is just there for us to see. So I think until the banks accept that reality to some extent, and try to align their, some do this much better than others, but that there is more attempt to align their internal culture and what they actually do with how they talk about themselves. It's going to be quite difficult for people to engage and trust them, right?
I suppose so. But I guess most people don't necessarily think beyond that. They just think about, well, can I get money out? Can I write a check? Are my bill's going to get paid? I think they think of the day-to-day as much as anything else, and not the bigger issues around it all. But you're right. I mean, I think people, like, with any brand, people want to connect with it and understand it. And it's a two-way street. Brands have to understand people, and people have to understand brands, and they have to find some kind of common ground for them to kind of connect with each other. And banks, you're right, have been quite kind of opaque and hidden. Now it's all open mostly, and I think banking will change. Banking is changing and will continue to change. And as all the startups and all the mobile app type banking things come in, we're going to see a very different world in the next kind of few years, I think.
I think it's quite incredible. Barclays CEO was saying, I was at a talk recently, and he was saying that, 2012, remember the Olympics, how happy we all were, what a great place Britain was to be in. Seems a long time ago now. 2012, Barclays didn't have a banking app. And yet now, the overwhelming majority, 75%, hundreds of thousands of interactions a day with that brand happen on their apps. And that's how much that world has changed.
Absolutely right. I mean, all the big banks, all the high street banks, they are moving now to using apps and online and tools, and branches are closing down. And the notion of going into the bank to your bank manager, is pretty much over in a lot of cases. And you go to some areas in the country and then you just won't find a bank for quite a while. And that will continue because it saves them a ton of money, and people don't have the time or inclination to, or necessarily want to go into a branch anymore.
And with fintech kind of being a booming area, automation in that area, it's going to be interesting to see what bank brands become and banks become, as many of the functions that we used to use them for become automated and kind of disappear from our lives in our world. You know, what does a bank actually do for you if all your transactions and your savings and your, you know, everything pretty much happens automatically because you program it into a bot or something? You know,
it's all automated, and you can look at it all in a touch of a button, all in one place, along with everything else that you do in a kind of financial sense. So what your mortgage is, what your bank savings account is, what your share prices are, what your pension balance is, all those things. It's all in one place, and you know exactly where you stand. You know, and that to me makes a lot of sense. Rather than going to half a dozen different places, looking at bits of paper, leafing through piles of, you know, filing to find something. It's all there on a dashboard. You can see exactly where you are.
so maybe you're just, you know, when you're choosing a bank, you're choosing the flavor of you know, principles and values that you want to look after your money, I guess, whether it be horses
exactly
on
right.
beaches or we are not an island.
They all do the same stuff. So do you like the notion of kind of, you know, horses running along beaches and heritage and all that kind of thing, or do you like modern, you know, cutting edge? Do you like global? You know, there you could if we had the time, we could easily sit down and just you know, identify each kind of bank or each banking group by its kind of key attributes, and you can easily differentiate them.
Back to Brexit.
Let's go back to Brexit because we're getting
Exciting. My favourite subject. Moving on.
Yeah. So this is an actual TV ad. I don't know if you want to play it.
Should we play it?
Let's play it. Good ad.
Due to the UK's Brexit vote, the pound is now at a 31-year low, which means you'll be saving on literally everything when you travel to London. Like fish and chips, was $7, now only $5. Bargain. A cheeky afternoon pint, now you can get 4 for the price of 3. Bargain. How about a bejeweled codpiece? Was $103,000, now a mere $89,000. Bargain. A bespoke suit? Bargain. Hanging out with these 3 guys? Bargain. A real English bulldog? Bargain. An etiquette lesson from the Duchess of Blandfordshire upon Heath? Bargain. Even hiring a town crier to announce your arrival? Bargain.
London welcomes Josh.
You get the point.
Hey everyone.
So come to England and buy everyone a drink.
Next round's on me.
You'll be saving a fortune when you visit London, so there's no better time to experience Virgin Atlantic than now. See for yourself at brexitcalculator.com.
Wow.
So that was made by an American agency called F&P in New York.
Wow.
It's a couple of years old now, but it's still kind of, you know, resonates. It still kind of rings true. Still funny. Still makes fun of us.
Is that what the world thinks of us now? We're just jolly.
Well,
dear.
I like the way though that it kind of brings in, you know, these kind of stereotypes of oldie London, you know, with town criers and you know, fish and chips and pints of beer. It's like, you know, Simpsons do that kind of thing when they make fun of bad English, you know, and it's kind of funny. You know, I don't think that would have necessarily been seen in this country by many people, but you know, for an American thinking about coming here, you know, that's a nice little hook to get people going. Oh, actually, it's going to be really cheap if I go to London because of the you know, the pound's crashed or Brexit, financial chaos or whatever. So you know, and I like it. It's funny.
Fascinating. It's brilliant. It is great. I think it's fascinating. So, but I guess it's interesting on 2 levels. One, going back to that contrast with 2012 to now, you know, that certainly wasn't the brand of multicultural, high-performing, you know, country that I think we were trying to present to the world then, was it?
Yeah. Exactly.
Far more twee and parochial. Funny nonetheless, and a lot of truth in it, without a shadow of a doubt.
No.
But basically, they're saying, come to Britain. They muffed it up, and it's cheap to come here now, right? So
pretty much, yeah. Take advantage of this, you know, of this kind of economic situation we're in, and you know, enjoy stereotypical British culture of fish and chips, warm beer, and the town crier. You know,
I love it. It's a great campaign.
Brilliant. I know it's funny, and just a good way. A little calculator, I think, is a good way of showing people, you know, how much money they're going to save. That's a good way of selling airline tickets, really, if you think about it, because look how cheap it is to buy a ticket. Look how cheap it is to go there, and have a great trip, basically, and have fun.
And like I say, another representation of how the world is looking at us and Brexit and what's going on, and how how you get different perspectives on it, right?
Yeah, exactly right. And you know, this is you know, people who may have been to London once and been to a pub and gone, okay, warm beer, fish and chips. but we can still make it funny. We can still make it interesting and engaging, and it's still, still feels very Virgin, even though it, is an American ad. It's still very Virgin values and Virgin kind of, just being fun and playful and a little bit tongue in cheek, which I really like. I've always liked Virgin and the Virgin brand work that they've been doing for years now.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. What I love about it as well is that you get the same experience on the plane, everything throughout the whole experience. Even the video where they do the safety checks, it's got that humour and that kind of tongue in cheek, slightly British satire element to it. So it's very good.
It is. It is a good all-round experience, and I think everything they do, at least Virgin Atlantic and some of the other Virgin brands too, has always lived up to that belief and that kind of founding sort of set of principles around the brand. And they see it through end to end. And I've flown with them, and I think they're an awesome airline because they just look at the little details. They make sure everything is good as it can be, and they care. And whether they care or not, you think they care, and that's important.
And actually, full disclosure, I split my time between West Country, Devon, and London. And looking back at the things in that ad, other than the town crier, I think I've seen all of those in the last week. So
there you go.
So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Go to any London pub and you'll get exactly that.
Yeah.
Maybe not the Jules codpiece, but
yeah. Oh no, I haven't seen one of those. That's a good point. However, it's now on my Amazon shopping list. Right, moving on. Next one. Cool. Interesting. Should I press play?
Yeah, press play.
G'day Britain, we're here. It's almost time to say au revoir to Europe. So, if you're going to Brexit the EU, why not Brenta the AU? What a union that would be. Just imagine if we combined our sporting talents. You could teach us how to bowl, handle pressure, and how to drive. Maybe not him. And we could teach you how to catch and tackle and other basic sporting functions. And I know you'd miss out on some sick Europe stuff, like the Champs-Élysées and the Mediterranean, but you'd get Ramsay Street and Summer Bay. And sure, Europe might have some great chefs and great food, but we also have we've got the Great Barrier Reef, which is great. And let's be honest, at least we speak the same language. But sort of. Anyway, I guess we'll see you in the surf. Actually, on that, if you're going to hit the beach down here, you'll need some sunscreen and a new pair of budgie smugglers. Because those weird Eurobathers you got, they're just not going to cut it. Anyways, give it some thought and get back to us. And good luck on leaving the EU. Chat to you soon. Love you lots. Your mate Australia.
I love that. That's great.
I like that so much. You can do so much with stock footage if you have a great script.
Is that all stock footage, is it?
Pretty much. I mean, I say most of that is, you look through it. I mean, it's just a strong script. That was made by BBDO in Australia. Budgie Smugglers, I don't think is particularly known here as a brand. The term is, because it was a kind of a slang term, wasn't it, for Speedo trunks or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this would have been shown in this country, but clearly aimed at an Australian audience. Again, making fun of us and Brexit.
And of themselves as well, right? So
that's true. I mean, Australians do have a very kind of self-deprecating sense of humour that we do sometimes. And it was a nice kind of sweet ad, really.
I particularly liked the surfing the wave bit, and then it goes to, there's a shark underneath. So a little bit of double meaning there, maybe. But
yeah, no, it's good. It may not necessarily be that close to the whole Brexit thing. I mean, the brand and the product, but that's still not to say that you can have a bit of fun with what's going on the other side of the world and capitalize on a situation you can build something on and build a good ad on, and they've done exactly that.
I love the fact that with just a good bit of copywriting, and stock footage and out of license sound music, you can put together an absolutely cracking little ad. It's brilliant. Yeah.
There's a lesson for all of us there. In the days of £2 million shoots dotted around the world are long over, and now we're we're there making them with bits of stock photography and stock footage and a good script, and that's all you need to do now.
I do find that Photoshop buttock slightly alarming, though. I think we need to move on from this one.
Yeah. That is in fact the last.
That is the last slide, is it?
That's the last break I found this week.
So there we go. Well, it looks like we're stuck with the budgie smugglers.
Finish with that for then until we wrap up.
So, Kev, in summary, then, right? Brexit. Whether or not you think it's good or bad, whether or not you think we should be in or we're out, one good thing about it perhaps is that it's created a bit of creative territory for advertisers and marketers and campaigners. Yes?
Absolutely. Look, we're here doing this thing called Brexit, and over and above that, we have to get on with our day jobs and make great stuff. And people out there doing that all the time. And, be tactical, be quick, be inventive, be creative. And some examples there just show, that can be done. Despite the tough times and the uncertainty, you can still go off and make great advertising and great marketing materials and go off and actually do something that gets your customers interested and engaged and excited and helps build your brand and makes you closer to who you want to reach. And all those things there have done that, I think, very nicely.
So in summary, digital for good. Good thing about Brexit is cool advertising campaigns. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great advertising, great digital, great work. It's all out there, and we can do it.
Kevin Stables, strategist, planner, marketing genius, bar none, organic team member and legend. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks,
for
James.
joining my first little experiment in this. What did you think? Come on, be honest.
That was good. Good fun.
Interesting.
Good fun, and perhaps a bit more rehearsal would have been good.
Yeah, well, we'll see, and we'll try again. Brilliant. Thanks very much, Kev. Cheers.
Thanks a lot. See you later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.